Hello and welcome to the exclusive interview on France 24. We are today in Brasilia at the presidential palace. Our guest today is Dilma Rousseff, the President of Brazil. Mrs. President, thank you for welcoming us here.
It's my pleasure.
Before serving as president, you have been an activist of the far left. You have been jailed and tortured under the military dictatorship. You went on in your career as an economist before starting to work in politics at the Workers' Party. When Lula became elected, he appointed you Minister of Energy. You've been a director of his civil cabinet before succeeding him at the helm here in 2010 and being re-elected for a second and last term in October last year. I'll start with the topic which is rocking the whole globe, the major scandal that has splashed over the football, the International Football Association. Sepp Blatter was compelled to resign, a scandal of corruption about the choice of the organization, of the country organizing the COP, the television rights, a tremendous scandal which is also impacting scandal with some top managers of the Brazilian football. What is your vision about this major scandal?
First of all, I believe that it is essential to shed complete light on this scandal concerning acts of corruption within the international football organizations and including here in Brazil. I believe that for Brazilian football, this is absolutely necessary. This is an essential question because football is not just a sport. Today, it is also an industry. And this football industry must be regulated, it must be open, transparent, and that so that those who are living out their passion of football, who support their teams, can have absolute certainty that the money they spend, the shows that this generates, will be used to the benefit of whom? To the benefit of the clubs and the athletes, and not for one or two persons.
In your opinion, is it the evidence that there is something really rotten in the football, in the global football, and in Brazil too, and that one must start a clean up to do so that the supporters will see a sport that will not be tainted by money?
What I believe is that it is important to keep in mind that the investigations are not over, are not completed. I've heard strong indications for this procedure to be begun by Interpol, the U.S. Department of Justice, and moreover, the Brazilian Federal Police itself is carrying out investigations. I wish to believe that whatever the circumstances, there will be two periods, a before these events and an after these events.
Is your government ready, if there are evidences, to prosecute without any limit the top-ranking managers of football clubs, even within the Federation of Football, if it's about the allocation of the World Cup to Brazil in 2014, or a contract that had been signed by, for instance, the equipment of the Brazilian team? Will there be no limit if there are some suspicion of corruption in Brazil?
You can be assured of that. Now, I would like to raise a number of points. For us, it is extremely worrying because Brazil is the country which has won the greatest number of World Cups in all times, a country which, to my mind, organized the best of cups last year. And this country has no reason to engage in whatever form of corruption it may be for the cup to be won by Brazil. The cup brought to Brazil significant resources as the organizer. We, Brazil, had a strong cup and have made efforts to build airports, and we've constructed a true heritage. And everything concerning this investigation is in the best interest of the Brazilian people, because it is with the resources of the Brazilian people that this process was organized and that everything happened in Brazil. And that generated a lot of money during the World Cup, and this is excellent for everyone on the condition that it is done in a completely transparent way. And I hope that this is the case, because should this not be the case, you may be certain that it is in the best interest of the government to identify those who were responsible and to sanction them, which will guarantee de facto a better atmosphere for Brazilian football.
I'd like to get to the next summit between the countries of Latin America and the European Union, which will take place in Brussels very soon. There is one issue you talked about a lot. It's the trade agreement between the European Union and the Mercosur. It's been years that there are negotiations. Well, let's say it frankly, there's a deadlock. There should be a meeting soon. You said that your aim is to sign this agreement by the end of 2015. Could you please explain how an agreement that has been in a deadlock for years could suddenly be unlocked? Do you have a magic wand?
I believe in the information which is passed on to me, i.e. that the European Union countries are willing to make their commercial proposal. And in that case, I'm convinced that we have all we need to be able to make our own proposal. On the European Union side and on the Mercosur side, there may be differences because it is impossible for all European Union countries to share a same proposal or arrive at the same profile. However, it is essential that we prove that it is important to reach an agreement on the European Union side as well as on the Mercosur side. I believe that we should set a date. The time is right. It's a process which is being built. There remains to be seen whether the European Union is ready or whether the countries are ready.
There is a rule within the Mercosur that for this kind of agreement, all the members of the Mercosur should be in agreement. I think I understood that you were asking with some other countries of Mercosur, Uruguay, Paraguay, maybe more flexibility. And does it mean that if you see that within Mercosur there is a deadlock, that you can't get out of it, you would be ready that Brazil would sign a separated agreement with the European Union?
Brazil doesn't intend to sign an agreement alone. Whether it's Brazil or the European Union, we share a same rule of flexibility. What we can do is arrive at a differentiated agreement for each country.
Let's get to another issue. You have to travel to the United States at the end of the month. End of 2013, there were revelations about the spying of the United States over Brazil. You canceled a state visit. You required public apologies. They were never given on behalf of the White House. Is today everything has been forgiven?
When I was informed of these tappings of the Brazilian government and Brazilian companies, and the Brazilian government and myself, but I wasn't the only one. The government was tapped, and Petrobras, the oil company. We consider that this matter of security and tappings is essential. We took a number of measures with the United States. These negotiations have led to a series of measures. and the interruption of the tappings from a given point in time against so-called friendly countries. I think this is what happened for Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And during my conversations with President Barack Obama, what did we decide? We decided, first of all, that from the moment that was specified together, these tappings would no longer happen, and that was the decision of the Obama government. And we wish to focus on that because that was our major concern. And from that moment on, President Obama himself told me that if we need information, whatever it may be, from your country, I will call you.
In a couple of words, do you trust now Barack Obama on this issue when he tells you we're not going to spy on Brazil unless we tell you? You trust him?
I trust him. President Obama will never allow this in the future for Brazil. I trust him because he promised this to me.
Let's move to another topic regarding Barack Obama. It's Cuba. Many said this decision, the warming up with Cuba, was a watershed. Do you agree with this? Do you think it's going to go to the end of the process, i.e. what many leaders of Latin America and Europe are asking for, the lifting of the embargo, which is a decision to be taken by the Congress?
I believe that the initiative of President Obama and President Raul Castro, assisted in this by Pope Francis, was a major step for all of Latin America, for Brazil, and for the world. For our region, it's as if we were formalizing the end of the Cold War. And I would like to pay tribute to President Hollande because after 30 years, he is the first European head of state to travel to Cuba. And I think that from now on, we must fight for the lifting of the embargo. The coming of heads of state, the end of the embargo is essential. Cuba has all of the conditions in its hands to enter into a new era in a durable way. Cuba has the highest human development index in Latin America. Cuba also has an extraordinary level of education and health. Now, I think that it's a partnership for Cuba to be able to develop in the industrial.
The embargo must be lifted.
Europe has a strategic role to play.
But the embargo must be lifted and remains very difficult.
I believe that, indeed, that is what is lacking, and it is important for the U.S. Congress to support President Obama along those lines. We must also support the Cubans in their economic development towards a more dynamic economy that will integrate into the world.
Let's get to the situation in Brazil. The economic situation is rather bad. Growth is going down, -1, -1.2% in growth. Inflation is rising, interest rates are increasing. You started a major austerity plan of some 70 billion real. It is obviously something that was not expected from a left-wing president. Why did you do that? You had no choice? The situation was that bad that you needed to take measures of austerity?
A government, whether left-wing or right-wing or from the center, when it understands, and it is important for a left-wing government to be able to prove that, when this government understands that changes are necessary, they have to make these changes. They have to have the courage of making these changes. And what we are doing right now is we are having the courage of making these adjustments so that we can return to growth quickly. Why? Because while all that was happening, we in Brazil have had to face a large number of other events. For instance, we had the greatest drought in the past 50 years in the northeast of the country, and the greatest drought in the century in the southeast of Brazil. And it's in the southeast that the greatest water reserves are concentrated in our country. And all of that led to an increase in the cost of energy. And this increase in the cost of energy led to an increase in inflation. So what do we need to do now? We need to change our policy, but in parallel with that, we will be maintaining the social achievements and the investments. The cuts will be more in the scope rather than regarding the development already achieved.
Will you carry on with this line of austerity? Because true that there were some measures to reduce a lot of social benefits. Would you say within your own party that you will go on, as you said, because it's necessary, and this means to be courageous in politics? Or will you have to listen to those voices from the left saying Dilma Rousseff forgot that she is a left-wing president?
I think that it happens. It often happens. It happened on many occasions around the world. It happened to Mitterrand. I believe that a left-wing government must prove its ability not only to carry out a social policy, but also be successful in a macroeconomic stabilization policy. Why is that so? Because we, left-wing government, have committed to not increase unemployment or taxes, as is happening in many European countries. We must attempt to reduce the impact of this on social policies, and this should not paralyze the government. This does not prevent a government from acting, nor from investing in infrastructure or social policies. What our government is doing is reducing the level of expenditure.
Last large issue I'd like to raise with you is the Petrobras scandal. It's a tremendous scandal of corruption, a whole system that has been revealed by investigation of a judge, of police, of kickbacks, of companies who are making agreements with Petrobras, with kickbacks to political parties, including your political party. Some former leaders of Petrobras said that your campaign of 2010 did benefit of the system. Let me remind our viewers that you have been at the head of Petrobras for years, and many are at pain to believe that you were totally unaware of all this system that is being revealed for some months here in Brazil. What's your answer?
Just a point of clarification. I was president of the board of directors. I was not president of the company. What I think of the Petrobras scandal? Well, it concerns employees of Petrobras who were hand in glove with companies or parties to draw benefits. This did not happen with all the companies, nor with all of the parties, nor with all the members of the party. All the campaigns carried out in Brazil benefit from contributions from all of those companies. I don't see why only mine would be put forward. When this happens, it is a political activity, i.e., one is attempting to mix my campaign with all of that. There is absolutely no indication of that, neither in 2010 nor in 2014. All of the candidates who were my rivals received money from companies in a legal way. And the campaign accounts were approved by the higher electoral tribunal. Now, this is not what I want to discuss. About Petrobras. Petrobras has seen a major scandal. Ministers from my government, these people who are now in prison, these people I fired. After 1 year of government, I fired them at the beginning of 2012. These people who are in jail today. Moreover, it is very important to understand that Petrobras, the company, has over 30,000 employees. 5 individuals have been charged. So it's not the scandal of Petrobras, it's the scandal of a certain way of operating at a high level in Petrobras.
If the investigation underway will prove in one way or another that you knew that you were linked to this mechanism of illegal financing of the parties, will you be able to take all the consequences?
I have nothing to do in that. I will not answer that question because I have nothing to do with that case. I know that I have nothing to do in that. I know what I'm doing, and I will fight until the end to show that I am not connected with that. I have a past history, and I have never accused of whatever wrongdoing. So it's not a matter of if. There is no if. I'm not connected to that.
Let's get to another issue. Women in politics. You are heading the most important power of Latin America. Angela Merkel is heading the leading European country. And maybe next year there'll be elections in the United States, and maybe a woman will become head of the first global power, Hillary Clinton. I see you're smiling. Is it because for you it would be the evidence that women are governing as well or even better as men?
I won't go into that debate as to who would govern the best. But I would like to say that de facto it is very important for women that women of the level of Angela Merkel, and in the case of the U.S. elections, a woman with the competence of Hillary Clinton, de facto that will certainly improve the way in which women see themselves. I would like to tell you a story. During my election campaign, a lady came up to me with a 12-year-old girl, and the girl wasn't going to be voting for me. But the young girl's name was Victory, and I found her first name very interesting. And Victory asked me a very interesting question. Could a woman be president? And this question, which Victory asked me, a young girl to a woman who was a candidate for the presidential election, I think that this proved to Victoria that not only a woman could be a candidate, but she could also be elected president. And from a symbolic point of view, and from the point of view of the empowerment of women, it is important.
One issue that is discussed in Brazil time and again is the abortion. Abortion can be made in a very limited amount of cases. You said a few years ago, before becoming president, that you were in favor of a kind of legalization. Do you think that on this issue, making that there are a lot of clandestine abortion, many women die of it, is it necessary for society to move forward?
In Brazil today, the law does authorize abortion. In certain very important situations, it is authorized. In the case of malformation, the Supreme Court decided in favor of that. And so the law authorizes it in case of violence against women, which leads to special situations. I believe that Brazil today will be entering into a long process, an evolution of the situation. If you did a survey today, it might be that all women would not support this position. I believe that it is a matter in which the state should not intervene. The federal state should not intervene in this. We should keep for ourselves what we believe and not enter into that debate.
You as a woman.
I, as a woman, I am the president, and that is being the president. As a woman, I am the president.
Thank you, Mrs. President.
Madame la Présidente. Molto obrigado.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merci à vous.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you for watching this exclusive interview on France 24. Stay tuned for more news.
Pour plus d'informations.